Yes. Then after that, I can. I don't know why every time why does my name shows as Zoom user and not my name? Mm, okay. Hare Krishna.
Good evening, Hare Krishna. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good, good.
Yes, inspiration in life.
Welcome to our Bhagavad Gita session, all of you. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. We're continuing our journey along the path of the 11th chapter, which is the Virat Rupa, the universal form of the Supreme. And quite interesting. I'm happy that you all are with me this evening. So let us begin where we left off. And as we normally do, we'll begin with some Sanskrit, so get us into the mood. And this is text 31. And it's the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, beginning with text 31. And Prabhupada entitles it the universal form, or Virat Rupa. So text 31 reads as follows. Akyahi me ko bhavan ugra rupo. Namostu te deva vara prasida. Vigyatum ichchami bhavantamadhyam nahi prajanami tava pravritim. And that translation reads as follows. And I'm with this particular chapter, it works with some chapters, not all chapters, but this chapter, it's really a continuous stream, a very tight knit stream of thought. So I'm going to read text 31 through 40 and then give whatever realizations I have on this, ask if you have any questions, etc. So the translation to the Sanskrit we just read of text 31 of the 11th chapter is, O Lord of Lords, so fierce of form, please tell me who you are. I offer my obeisances unto you. Please be gracious to me. You are the primal Lord. I want to know about you, for I do not know what your mission is. Text 32 reads, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, time I am, and this is an important verse and a famous verse in the Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is saying, time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people. With the exception of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. Text 33 reads as follows, therefore, get up, prepare to fight and win glory, conquer your enemies, and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement. And you, O Savyasachi, can be but an instrument in the fight. Text 34, Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and the other great warriors have already been destroyed by me. Therefore, kill them and do not be disturbed. Simply fight, and you will vanquish your enemies in battle. Text 35 reads, Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, O king, after hearing these words from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the trembling Arjuna offered obeisances with folded hands again and again. He fearfully spoke to Lord Krishna in a faltering voice, as follows. And this is text 36. Arjuna said, O master of the senses, the world becomes joyful upon hearing your name, and thus everyone becomes attached to you. Although the perfected beings offer you their respectful homage, the demons are afraid, and they flee here and there. All this is rightly done. Text 37. O Great One, greater even than Brahma, you are the original creator. Why then should they not offer their respectful obeisances unto you? O limitless one, God of gods, refuge of the universe, you are the invincible source, the cause of all causes, transcendental to this material manifestation. Text 38 reads, You are the original personality of Godhead, the oldest, the ultimate sanctuary of this manifested cosmic world. You are the knower of everything, and you are all that is knowable. You are the supreme refuge above the material modes. O limitless form, this whole cosmic manifestation is pervaded by you. Text 39. You are air, and you are the supreme controller. You are fire, you are water, and you are the moon. You are Brahma, the first living creature, and you are the great grandfather. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you 1,000 times, and again, and yet again. And the concluding verse for this segment. Obeisances to you from the front, from behind, and from all sides. O unbounded power, you are the master of limitless might. You are all pervading, and thus you are everything. So, does anyone notice a change of attitude in terms of Arjuna? These past 9 or 10 verses that we're reading. What is Arjuna's attitude now? What is his mood towards Krishna, and how does that differ than previously? Can anyone say what Arjuna's mood right now? We read those verses, and there was a definite mood change there. So who can tell me what they feel Arjuna's mood is at this point? Anyone?
Please tell us. We don't know.
What is
We're
that?
waiting for you. We're waiting for you to tell us. We don't know. I don't know.
You know. Well, listen to what Arjuna has said. He's saying, you know, you are the supreme. You are limitless. It's a mood of reverence. It's a mood of being overwhelmed by the presence of this universal form. Arjuna is one of Krishna's best friends and most intimate friends. And previously, Arjuna says, I have been very casual with you, very, very informal with you. We were lying on the same bed and joking and, doing so many things together as friends will do. So how many friends do you know that you'll go and you'll say to them, oh, you'll be so reverential towards them and so grateful and just in awe of their abilities. I mean, that may happen to a degree, to a small degree. For instance, if you have a friend, like I have a wonderful friend, he was just visiting not too long ago. His name is Havi. He's a god brother of mine. He's an initiated disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And Javi and I have known each other for a long time, since the 70s. And when I was living in Puerto Rico, Javi, who is a very famous pop star in Venezuela and some other South American countries. And when I say very famous, I really mean that. In Venezuela, I have a game I play, and I tell hubby this. Whenever I meet a Venezuelan here in Florida, and there are a lot of Venezuelans, one time I took an Uber and the driver was Venezuelan. Another time I took my car to the car wash and one of the guys there was Venezuelan. Because I always say, "De donde eres? Where are you from?" And they'll tell me, I'm from Ecuador, I'm from Peru, I'm from Mexico, I'm from Venezuela." As soon as I find a person's from Venezuela, I say, "Do you know Elon Chester?" And oh, Elon Chester, and all of a sudden, like Wayne's World almost. Oh, we bow down. So he evokes a mood of a great deal of appreciation because he's famous. Now, I didn't know. I knew that he had a successful career in his country and a little bit outside of his country. He's a Venezuelan and he speaks Spanish. That's his main language. But I didn't know how good he was until he came to visit me in Puerto Rico because he was doing a concert in Puerto Rico, and he said let's go around. To some of my music friends here in Puerto Rico, and we did, and they were
No, it's
jamming.
faster than that.
So I got
Plus, everything was a good man.
I got him to take me around with him, and I heard him play and sing, with the various musicians that are there, and I was like awestruck how good a musician he was. I already did it. I was awestruck at how good a musician he was. So Arjuna is in a similar position. He knows that Krishna is great. But when you are in a mood of love, in the Bhakti Yoga system, it's described that there's two types of Maya. One is called Mahamaya. And Mahamaya means that when you enter into the material world, you come in contact with the material elements, you are covered by the material elements, you forget that you're a spiritual entity. And you invest all of your time, all of your energy in trying to interact within this material world and exploit it to whatever degree you want to exploit it, et cetera, et cetera. In order to do that, there has to be a state of forgetfulness of who you really are as spirit soul. So when the effects or the influence of the material elements are called the three material modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance, or sattvagun, rajagun, and tamagun. And tamagun, which is ignorance, which means to ignore, which means to be really covered. When you are influenced by the gunas, by the modes of material nature, it causes forgetfulness of your real position as spirit soul. And thus we invest our time and our energy in interacting within the material world. And that is the cause of our suffering. Because the living entity, as pure spiritual consciousness, knows no suffering. It's not possible for us to suffer on the spiritual level, which is really our position. The suffering comes when we're deluded into thinking we are the material body, we are of this material world. So this Mahamaya is the covering that is a result of interacting and being covered by the material elements. Srihari, you have a question? Srihari, I see your hand is raised. No? No question? Okay. In any case, then there is Yoga Maya. And Yoga Maya is the same covering potency, but is in the spiritual realm, So when we are in our pure state of consciousness, we can interact with the Supreme according to the love exchange that we are experiencing. For instance, there are the gopis, and the gopis do not see Krishna as God, but they see Krishna as their supreme lover. Then there are the cowherd boys. The cowherd boys don't see Krishna as God, but they see Krishna as their best friend. Then there's Mother Jasoda and Nanda Maharaj. And they don't see Krishna as the Supreme Lord. They see Krishna as their child. And this covering has to be there so that the soul can interact in a love exchange of the particular flavor of their relationship with God. So it's a covering not of total forgetfulness, but it's a covering of the forgetfulness that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, creator, source of everything, because that's like that. When you start thinking like that, it puts you into this awe and reverential state of consciousness. And in the spiritual realm, in order to interact with the Supreme Lord lovingly, as a friend, as a child, as a lover, you can't do that if you're overwhelmed by this awe and reverence. So the two types of Maya are there to affect us when we're in contact with material nature, or to affect us or influence us in a particular way when we're in a pure state of consciousness. That is what Bhakti Yoga is all about. Bhakti Yoga is not trying to have us merge into the oneness of Brahman, or to meditate on the Paramatma, the super soul within the heart. Bhakti Yoga is leading us down the path of eternal loving relationship with the Supreme. So Arjuna is his pure consciousness is in relationship with the Supreme Lord, Krishna, always and forever. So he wanted to see the universal form, as I said in previous classes about during this particular 11th chapter, because he knew Krishna and Krishna's greatness. But according to his relationship, he had an intimacy, a confidential friendship with him. But when he sees how potent, how powerful Krishna is right in front of him, he's standing on his chariot, which is situated between the two armies prior to the Battle of Kurukshetra. And Krishna is sitting there as the chariot driver. And when Arjuna makes this request, all of a sudden, boom, there's this universal form. And everything can be seen in that form. All the demigods, all animals, all, energies, everything is seen. So Arjuna is like, he goes from a state of, friendship to he's also in a state now of a teacher student. He becomes Krishna's student. And now he's like being shown all of Krishna's power right in front of him in all the various forms. So what is going on? So Arjuna, he's like in text 31, what does he ask Krishna? Who are you? You're my friend, you're my chariot driver, you're God. I know all these things. But when he's in the presence of the universal form, Arjuna's response is, "Who are you?" And then Krishna, that's if you look back at text 31, that's what Arjuna is saying. Arjuna is saying, "Who are you? You're standing before me. All the demigods are in your form. all the elements, everything is there. I'm witnessing all of this in my presence. Just minutes ago that wasn't there, and he's just being totally overwhelmed. First there was fear, and then there is awe and reverence. So what does he say in 31 that we read? He says, "O Lord of Lords, so fierce of form, please tell me who you are. I offer my obeisances unto you. Please be gracious to me. You are
Lakshmi.
the primal Lord." Is someone wanting to say something?
Yes. You know, I want to know about you. That's from a Beatles song. Hare Krishna.
Yes? Well, most of the Beatles read Bhagavad Gita, and George Harrison was considered himself a student of Prabhupada. So it would not amaze me to find out that, by the influence of the Gita, it somewhere or another seeped into their songs. I think George Harrison wrote a song, "Within You, Without You." Does anyone know that song? It has a real kind of raga-like, I think he even uses sitar on that too, but it would not surprise me. And then you have "My Sweet Lord."
Well, that's where that came from. I want to know about you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
All right. "My sweet Lord, I really want to know you, Lord. I really want to understand you, Lord, but it takes so long, I know. Hare Krishna, my sweet Lord. Krishna, Krishna." Yep. That's George Harrison and his influence. He was influenced by Bhagavad Gita and Srila Prabhupada's teachings. So there we have Arjuna. He's just overwhelmed. He's seeing this. Arjuna asks, "Who are you in this terrible form?" This form is like totally blowing his mind. And how does Krishna identify himself? When Arjuna asks that question, then how does Krishna address that question? That's text 32. Krishna says, "Time I am, the great destroyer of all the worlds. And I have come here to destroy all people." That sounds pretty, that sounds pretty heavy. It sounds pretty intense. "Time I am, destroyer of all worlds. And I come here to destroy everything and everybody." So what Krishna is saying here is the time factor. I am the time factor. That time factor comes from me. It's one of my energies. In the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he identifies 5 truths that are contained within the Bhagavad Gita. And the 5 truths are Ishwara, and Ishwara is the supreme controller, God. Jiva, and Jiva means the soul, uh, the finite Brahman, the finite eternity, knowledge, and bliss, the finite as opposed to the infinite. So Ishwar is the infinite. Jiva is the same qualitatively, but finite, tiny, small, coverable, whereas the Ishwara is never covered, never can be covered. Why? Because what covers is Krishna's energy.
Ты на
That
велосипеде? Ну, нету выбора. Только на велосипеде не могу.
Пойдешь со мной гулять?
Ну, я бы
so that covering that's there. So Ishwara is uncoverable because everything is his energy. and he is not covered by his energy. He is the source of the energy. But the finite soul, the jiva, is finite, spiritual, pure spirit, Satchitananda in quality, but in quantity finite. So it's coverable. So there's a distinction between Ishvara and Jiva. So those are two of the truths that Bhagavad Gita talks about. Ishvara, the supreme, the supreme controller. Jiva, the finite soul. And then Prakriti. And Prakriti is described in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, my Prakriti, my energy, which is the material energy, which makes up the material world, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. That Prakriti, that is mine. That is my energy. And that's why Ishvara is uncoverable and Jiva is coverable by Krishna's energy. That external energy, that material energy can cover the finite soul. And that is what places us in this state of illusion, being covered by the influence of the material energy, which is called Mahamaya. Is that clear? I tried to make that as clear as I possibly can. Is there anyone confused by what I just said? And in describing the three, there's 5, so I have 2 more to describe. I described 3 of the 5 basic truths of what Bhagavad Gita speaks about. Ishvara, supreme controller. Jiva, the soul. Prakriti, the material energy. Isn't this Gita amazing? How it's breaking it down so that we can see very, very clearly who we are, why we're in the condition that we're in, why do we suffer, how do we become free from that suffering, what is the cause of the suffering, who is the liberator of us from that suffering. All of these questions in terms of our spiritual journey. What is the purpose of human life? Jiveta Swarupoy Krishnera Nityadas. The purpose of human life is to serve God and to become free from that aspect of his energy, the Prakriti, to become free from the illusion that comes by being covered or in contact with the material energy. And the only way that we can become free from that and enter into our eternal loving relationship is to serve God. And that is what Bhakti Yoga teaches. Bhakti Yoga teaches us how to serve God. Bhakti means love and devotional service to the Supreme. So Bhakti Yoga in a nutshell is to come to the platform where we are desiring to serve God in a pure way, with a pure consciousness. So the process of bhakti is a purificatory process, but it is also the process which we learn how to exchange with God in a pure state of loving awareness. So Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti. Then the 4th basic truth of the Bhagavad Gita, karma. Krishna talks extensively about karma. End of the 2nd chapter, the 3rd chapter, the 4th chapter, the 5th chapter, and some smatterings of it through other parts of the Gita. But karma, action, reaction. So what is karma? Karma means when the living entity is covered by the material energy and is deluded into thinking that we are the material energy, meaning we are the body, we are the mind. We're in that deluded condition. We're under a set of laws. And the set of laws is called karma, the law of karma, which means, and the law of karma is meant to rehabilitate us. Because we are thinking we're the material elements, we're not. So why we interact as though we are this body and as though we are this mind, we're under a law of karma, which means every action that you perform, there's a reaction. So when we are acting within this material world, acting, reaction. Good action, good reaction. Bad action, bad reaction. Spiritual action, when we spiritualize our activities by offering them to God, and that's called akarma, no reaction. So the goal of bhakti yoga is to put us in a state of akarma, a karmic activity, where we're acting in awareness, conscious awareness of our relationship with God, our service to God, our actions as an offering to God. And when we act in that particular way, it's purifying, it purifies us. And the result of purification is we become free from the illusion. And we begin to see everything in relationship to God. And we begin to, all the things that we've been reading in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I am the light of the sun and the moon. I am the taste of water. I am the ability of man. Of purifiers, I am the wind. Of bodies of water, I am the great ocean. And he goes on and on and on. So that we hear this, and our hearts are becoming purified. And then now we look at these things that are around us and begin to realize their connection with the Supreme. And so our vision, how we see, transforms into the vision of consciousness, pure consciousness, rather than the vision which has been covered by Prakriti, the material elements. The covering is removed. The cataracts are removed, and therefore the vision becomes clear. So karma, action, reaction. It's meant to put us in a situation where if I do something wrong, something bad, I'm going to suffer for that. There's going to be a reaction. And when the soul comes to the point of saying, enough, akinchana gocharam. Akinchana gocharam means that I am materially disgusted. Enough of this suffering. When we come to that point, then we are in a state of mind where we can dedicate our lives, our energy in service to the Supreme. When we come to that point, and karma brings us to that point, because when you perform a good action, okay, what are the results of good action? Well, one result is money. You'll always have money. Another is beauty. You'll be born like you see some people are born and they're handsome or beautiful, and some people are not that fortunate. Intelligence. Some people are very, very bright, and some people, are not so bright. And they make choices which are really the repeated causes of their suffering. So, wealth, health, beauty, knowledge, all of these, being in a situation where you have those things, that is called reaction from good actions. Now, one may say, well, I should just, structure my life in such a way where I'm doing good actions, and then I'll have wealth and I'll have good health. But it doesn't work that way, because even if you do have health and even if you do have wealth, etc., the soul is still not ultimately satisfied. Why? Because of death. We, as eternal souls, do not want death. And how is it that we do not want something that we don't experience? We really, the soul is deathless. And how could we want deathlessness if it isn't part of our constitutional makeup? Doesn't make any sense. If we're not souls, if we are only the body, how could we aspire for something like that? That's not within our realm of experience. Because deathlessness is not only within the realm of our experience, deathlessness is our eternal constitutional position. So therefore, even if you have good karma, the ultimate state of santosh or contentment or satisfaction is not there because of the impending death. I know there's one, maybe some of you know his name. There's a multimillionaire, and he spends a lot of money researching and structuring his life in such a way that he'll have the optimum health. He spends millions of dollars, so everything that he eats, all the supplements that he takes, et cetera, et cetera. He's done all the research, and he wants to achieve deathlessness, but you can't do it that way. By manipulation of the material elements, you cannot achieve a state of deathlessness. The way you achieve that state is by experiencing that state through the process of yoga. The process of yoga, you can experience your pure consciousness. And in Bhakti Yoga, we can experience pure consciousness in love relationship with the Supreme. So this is a very important thing to understand and to meditate on. Karma. And then what is the fifth truth? We've spoken about Ishvara, the controller, the supreme controller, Jiva, the soul, the finite, spiritual consciousness, Prakriti, the material energy, which is its source is the supreme, Ishvara, Karma, the law within this material world of action and reaction, which is to bring us to the point of ultimate surrender to our true spiritual constitutional position. And then the fifth one is Kala, or time. Time is a factor. Time, the source of time, Krishna is saying here. I am the source of time. And what is the effect of time? What is the effect of time on your body, folks? Who can tell me? What is the effect?
Aging.
Right.
Getting old.
Everything ages, right? You
Exactly.
get it. What's that? Is that Rose?
Yeah, so yes, exactly. You get old, older,
You get
wiser,
older.
you
You you
evolve.
you melt. You remember the scene in The Wizard of Oz when the Wicked Witch of the West was Dorothy pours water on her and she melts. Help me, I'm melting. Time has that effect on us. I just an old friend of mine just sent me a picture of when I was 17 on the high school basketball team, on the basketball game, on the basketball court during a game. Just sent me that picture, and I showed it to my son. And my son says, "Wow, you were strong then. You were really built then." And yeah, time. I am destroyer of worlds, destroyer of our microcosmic universe. This is the microcosmic universe. Time I am. And what does Krishna say? I am the destroyer of all worlds. I'm destroyer of time. I am. That's my effect. So that's, what's being spoken about in text 32. Krishna makes that declaration. He wants Arjuna to understand. Let's get back to what the point is that Krishna is making here. Arjuna is not wanting to engage in the battle. And then Krishna will later on say, we'll read it here, just say, they're already dead. That's their destiny. It's by my will that Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Duryodhan, Dushashana, all Shakuni, all the warriors on the other side, fighting, opposing Arjuna and his brothers, they're all destined to die. And what is destiny? Destiny is the language of God. So they're destined to die. And that's what Krishna says. Time I am, destroyer of all worlds. Their time is up. It's described when we are born, according to our karma, our existence in this body is destined. You have a certain number of breaths in your body. Karmically, it's determined. And when you use those breaths, the number of breaths that you are karmically gifted with, then that's it. Time I am. Their time has run out. How many of you ever put a timer on in the kitchen? It says, bake this apple pie 45 minutes. Okay, I put the timer on. What happens when the timer, goes down? You put it for 45 minutes. After 45 minutes, then the alarm rings. So when we have karmically, we have a certain amount of breaths, and when the timer goes off, that's it, folks. That's all she wrote. That's our destiny. That's our karma. So that's why it's emphasized in Bhakti Yoga to use your time wisely. In the Bhagavatam, it is stated that you cannot buy back 1 second of time for all the gold in the world. When it passes, it's gone. Prabhupada tells a story of a man, a wealthy man in India, and he was just about to undergo a very severe, very critical heart surgery. And he begs the surgeon, he says, please, please, just give me 4 more years of life and I will give you so much money. And the surgeon said, it's not up to me. I will do what I was trained to do, and then your destiny, whatever your destiny dictates. If you are to survive, then you will survive. If you are not, then you'll pass away. I just had a good friend of mine, a very wonderful human being. He just informed me that he has brain cancer. So yesterday we spent time together. I took him to the hospital. He's undergoing treatments right now. He's a very spiritual person. He's a Christian, one of the truest Christians I've ever met. And we had a lot of discussion, about faith in God and having, surrendering to what is our destiny, what is the determination. And it was wonderful to, in one sense, it's not wonderful that he's afflicted in that way, but it's wonderful to see how he is trying to understand, what he should do in these days that he's facing, the treatments that he's going through and the determination after the treatment, etc. And he's truly trying to understand. So we shouldn't come to that point. We should use our time, the time that we've been blessed with, not to waste a moment of time. That's a symptom of purity in consciousness. When we develop, when we grow in bhakti, when we evolve in terms of our understanding, one of the symptoms is we don't waste time. We use the time that we are blessed with in such a way that it will help us to progress, in our clarity of perspective, so we could see what is our point in life, what is our purpose in life, and how we can use the time that we have. And no one can say, you can be 22 years old, or you can be 76 years old, or you can be 81 years old. But no one can say. Everyone is in old age, because old age means the time before death. And can anyone tell me when they are going to die? I was in high school, and with a young boy, I played, we were on the same sports team, and he got into a car accident at 19 years old and he passed away. So you cannot say, I'm going to live a ripe old age. You cannot say. So therefore, everyone is in old age. Therefore, everyone should see and feel the necessity, the emergency to use our time properly. It's not that we become all morose about it. Oh my God, no. It's just that we understand that principle, that time is a destructive force and we only have so much time. And how do I structure my life, my lifestyle in such a way that I use my life in the best way possible? Because Krishna has said, we read that chapter, the 8th chapter, and he says, at the time of death, what your mind is fixed on determines your next destination. So think about it in relationship to what you are doing, how you are using your time. Think about it. Now, one may say, oh, no, I shouldn't go to work then. That's not accurate. You can go to work if you see your work is as your service to God and to family. See, it's just a flick of the switch of consciousness as to the purpose. If you're working to make money, well, yeah, that's not that. How much money you're making? How big are your paychecks? How much do you have in your bank account? What is what is your worth? What is your value? And what does that translate into at the time of death? So it's really not that I don't work or I don't fall in love and get into a relationship and have children. No, you should do all those things. That's part of, unless you are legitimately a renunciate. And 95, even maybe more percentage of humanity are not renunciates. They cannot give up all of these things honestly. And therefore, we have what is called the Grihastha ashram, the spiritual ashram, where you get married, you go to work, you raise your family, et cetera, et cetera. But it has to be that you see what you're doing, your dharma, your duty, as service to God. And that way, you can do everything. Everything. If you see it in that perspective, with that light. So Krishna is teaching us a very valuable lesson. So Krishna identifies himself as time, the 5 basic truths, Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Karma, and Kala. The supreme controller, the soul, the finite soul, the material energy, the action and reaction that's there when the soul is in the material world, and time, the destructive factor. Krishna is telling, that's who I am. You asked who I am? That's my energy. Then Krishna tells Arjuna, this battle of Kurukshetra is already determined. The outcome is already determined. So, Arjuna, as my devotee, you have a choice. Your dharma is as warrior, as protector, to protect citizens, to protect humanity from being exploited, from being hurt, from being put in suffering condition. So I'm telling you, according to their destiny, it is already written that they are going to die in this battle. That is my will, Krishna is saying. That is my determination. Now I'm asking you, do you want to be my instrument? Or do you want to deny your involvement? That's how Krishna is answering Arjuna. And Arjuna's query, about should I fight? I shouldn't fight. I shouldn't kill. No, he's saying it's not that you are fighting to kill for your own gratification. You are fighting to be my, excuse me, my instrument in unfolding their destiny. That's what Krishna is telling Arjuna. Their destiny will unfold according to my determination. Do you want to be a part of it? Do you want to help me? Serve me in that capacity or not? Then in text 35 and 36, Arjuna, his fear turns into, when he's hearing all this, when he's seeing all this, and he's fearful initially, his reaction is initially fear. Now it's turning into, at this point, at this juncture of the 11th chapter, now it's turning into a awe, a reverence. Wow. It's a wow moment that this is what God is capable of. I'm getting a glimpse of the potency of the Supreme. So we have a transition. Arjuna's fear turns into profound reverence, and now he gets into glorifying that supreme potency that he's witnessing in this Virat Rupa. Arjuna now is expressing clearly, succinctly, that Krishna as the supreme Brahman, the supreme personality, original Lord, eternal person, and source of all existence. So that's what we get in verse 37 and 38. In 39 and 40, Arjuna sees that all manifestations of power ultimately come from Krishna, and offers obeisances to Krishna in all the directions, to the north, to the south, to the east, to the west, to the southeast, to the southwest, to the northeast, to the northwest, in all of the directions. He's showing that reverence, that realization. He's experiencing this. He's experiencing firsthand, right in front of his eyes. Remember, these now are divya chakshush. He's been given transcendental vision so that he can experience all this, witness all this, and come to these realizations, and come to the point of glorification, recognition, and thus glorification of the Supreme. But what we'll see as we move further through, what we'll see is that Arjuna, he's experiencing this awe and reverential moment, but he really wants Krishna back so that he can relate to him in the way he's been relating to him as dear most friend. That's the conclusion that Arjuna will come to. We'll read that further on in the Bhagavad Gita. So, does anyone have any questions or comments that they would like to share with some of us here? Anyone?
Can I just say something? I read it once and I found it so beautiful that Krishna tells Arjuna, armed with yoga, go and fight.
Yes.
So it's so very profound. Armed with yoga, go and fight. Not with hate in your heart.
So, wow, Rose, that's very nice. How would you describe that? What does that mean? Armed with yoga.
Armed with yoga, with duty, and not with hate in your heart or with feeling of revenge. No, you go and you just perform your duty as service to God.
Exactly. That's the key, what you just said. Perform your duty with a mindset of this is my service to God. That's yoga. That's the yoga. That's the connecting force. That's the yogic force. When you do your dharma as service to the Supreme. That's the connective force. So that's a very wonderful observation and understanding, Rose. Thank you very much for sharing that with the group. Anyone else would like to give
Yes,
us
I would
that?
like to.
Okay, is that Shri Hari?
It is.
Okay, sir. Please go
So,
ahead.
this kind of goes back to the original question that you asked at the beginning of the class, and that is, like what, it's like Arjuna's eyes were opened during these 10 texts. And, in the beginning, Arjuna was questioning, and at the, when we get to text 40, his he sees the plan, shall we say, and that's what I've gleaned from this conversation.
Very nice. Very nice observation. Yeah, we see the evolution of Arjuna, going from fear, astonishment, bewilderment, and then, to understanding now. And that is our journey. We will be able to, at some point in time, we will be able to see when our eyes are opening to yet a deeper truth, yet a deeper understanding of what we are studying here in Bhagavad Gita. Our spiritual path. We will be able to see deeper into how I am to perform my duty in service to God. The realizations come. So we will and we are paralleling Arjuna's trek here, his journey here. Sometimes people become afraid when they get involved, with a serious commitment in spiritual life. They become afraid of that. Oh, now I have to surrender. I have to give up. I have to renounce. And, all these misconceptions of what spirituality is and spiritual life is come to the forefront. And then there's fear. I can't do this. I don't want to do this. I remember my younger sister had a substance abuse problem. And one time she called me up and she was crying and she was just saying, I really want to shake this. I really want to get out of this. I want to become free from this. And I said, are you sure? Are you ready? Are you determined? Yes, I'm sure I'm determined. So I have a very good friend who she has since sold it, but at the time she had a drug rehabilitation center for women. And it was a very high end, very intensive, and very, as drug rehabs go, very successful. So I called her up. I said, hey, Julie, this is my younger sister's dilemma. She called me up. She says she's ready. Is there anything you could do for her? And then Julie said, tell her to come immediately to the rehab place. I said, yeah, but I think it's $20,000 a month. And I said, she can't afford that. She said, no, I'm going to give her that is my gift to her. As long as she needs to stay to shake those demons, she can stay and I won't charge her a penny. I was like so excited. I was practically in tears. I called my sister up and I said, look, I got you into this place. The owner said, no worry for money, just come, get on a plane immediately, because my sister lived in New Jersey and this place was in Florida here, in Miami, I believe. And my sister refused. She said no. When it came to the point of making the commitment, she got afraid. She said, well, I don't want to give up my Friday nights at the local bar and with my husband and this and that. So I say that was a very personal and intimate part of my life, but it directly mirrors a person who wants to do spiritual life, wants to commit to it, but yet is afraid to do it, afraid that I'm going to give up, certain things, and and therefore they get fearful. So Arjuna saw this form. Oh my God. Literally, he said, oh my God, literally. And, he could have taken the stance like, no, too much, and that's what happens to us, when we get on our path and we begin to realize that we may be walking in the wrong direction. We may be putting our energy into things that are not going to bear the fruit that we think they're going to bear. And we just have to adjust and get back onto the path. And when we do so, and the more we expose ourselves to wisdom of this nature, this spiritual nature, the more the doubt dissolves, the more the fear dissolves, the more the conviction develops and it becomes eventually, as we evolve, as Arjuna is evolving, as we evolve on our journey, on our path, we realize that this is my journey. This is what I have to walk. And this is how I'm going to meet these challenges with great determination and conviction to perform the yoga, armed, as Rose pointed out, armed with yoga. We can do it. We can come to the point of experiencing, becoming aware of our awareness. One of the preliminary things is we become aware that we are pure consciousness. So becoming aware of our awareness, becoming aware of the fact that we are aware, we are seeing and experiencing things, not because of the mechanism, of the eyes or the other senses, but because of the consciousness emanating from the soul, which is animating the machinery. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, yantra rudhani mayaya, that you, the soul, Arjuna, is the soul in a machine made of material energy. And we begin to see that and experience that. So one of the preliminary effects of that is we no longer become afraid of death. We no longer become bewildered by disease. We no longer become confused by loss. Because this kind of understanding puts clarity, illuminates the very understanding of life and life's purpose. Does anyone else have anything else, any kind of observation, takeaway? Thank you, Sri Hari, for giving us the takeaway that you had from that. Very nice. Rose, thank you. Anyone else would like to say something, contribute in either through question or takeaway point or observation?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Pranam, Jai Sudha Prabhupada.
Yeah, is this Bharat Shreshtas?
Hari Bol, yes.
Haribo Bharat.
So I wanted to share something about morning japa. Like
Mm-hmm.
every day in the morning I do like 8 rounds. But it used to get like kind of dull and like, like I was not kind of into it.
Right.
So I thought like, let me pray to Krishna. I said, Krishna, I can't do this by myself. I need a partner to do it. So like the next morning, I just turned the iPhone on YouTube and I started listening to Prabhupada's Japa. So since then, I've been continuously like 8 rounds in the morning. I do it with Srila
With ease.
Prabhupada. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah,
the fast ones.
we do the same thing here, because the modes of material nature are very strong and they're always looking to interfere, with our concentration. So important environment, have the proper environment. So that means look at your house or your apartment or your condo, wherever you live, look at it and say to yourself, what is creating, distraction here? Before you start your chanting, before you start your meditation, you look at it. What is it? What sound? What sight? What chaos is causing your distraction? And then you rectify it. And you create,
Yes.
and that's it. So what you did is you did it through sound vibration. And that helped you to focus. And that was very good. And you prayed to Krishna and Krishna responded.
Yeah, I got a partner.
Yeah, you got a serious partner there.
Yes.
I chanted japa live with Prabhupada once, and it was quite an amazing experience when someone is in samadhi and
Yes.
and you hear that coming through the
Yeah, and he
voice.
give like full concentration, 100%, because he do it
Yeah,
with Prabhupada, like when he's Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram.
yeah,
I constantly like, keep up with him. And I
right.
usually like, like he has my house in the backyard at the small lake.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I sit and I keep my eyes closed so there is no
Yeah.
external disturbance, so to speak.
Yeah, I do the same. I go in the backyard until my dog tries to play with me and becomes a little bit of a distraction, and I'll go back into the house and in front of our altar. And but I like that she also hears, and as long as she's good, I'll stay in the backyard and and I'll chant because I like to be in nature. And but you have to make those adjustments. If something's starting to distract you, you have to change the situation, adjust. That's very
Thank
good,
you.
Bob. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Anyone else would like to contribute? Any observation or question on what we spoke about today? How about you, Trish? You got anything there?
Um, I have a mass distraction, especially in the morning with people calling me, and I've been trying to be helpful to my friends, yet still putting up boundaries to friends and family that seem to be constantly needing things. It does distract from my own practice, so I'm trying to find that balance.
Best thing to do is identify the source of your distraction, and that's your phone, and then just turn your phone off. And you can put a message
Right.
on your phone. I'm not accessible until after such and such time, and that's recommended by even my wife's listening to a book, and I forget the name of the book, but anyway, it's about focus. And one of the things that he mentions is identifying your source of distraction and then do something about it. So I have a friend. His name is Bud Ryan. He lives in Gainesville. We're really close friends. And sometimes I'll call him like 8 or 9 in the morning because we usually get up around 5 and we do our japa. And he'll just say, sorry, can't answer the phone right now. I'm busy. And then later on, he'll tell me he's doing his meditation and he doesn't want any distraction. So, not unless it's like a dire emergency or something like. But if it's just like, oh no, I don't know what to do today. My car broke down. I mean, those things can be handled at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock rather than at 7 o'clock or whatever. So you're a kind person, but don't make yourself unlimitedly available, accessible, especially if it interferes with your sadhana. It's important. And like you said,
Thank you.
you're creating your boundaries, and as you should. Thank
Works
you.
in progress, always.
Always, always a work in progress. Yes. Anyone else? Okay. If we've run our course for the evening, thank you very much, folks, for joining me. I really appreciate your association and all the wonderful questions that you've been putting forth and observations. I really appreciate that. So until our next time, you have a happy, healthy, and holy week. And we'll see you next week, same time, same station. And for those of you that are local, we have our Kirtan Thursday night here in Boca at Core Strong. So if you have the time, come join us and chant. And if not, there's always programs on the weekend at Radha Govinda Mandir. So we'll see you all, like I said, next week, same time, same station. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Krishna, Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Hare Bol.